I gave up my phone for a week. So, I did a 7-day technology fast, and this was actually, I think, really, really difficult, but I think it was also really cool because just society today is so driven by their phones, and in everything we do, we have to post about it and share it and tell everyone about it. Or when we're bored and we want to relax, we're always scrolling or something like that. And so taking a break from that for a week and fasting from that was, I think, a really, really difficult thing to do, but it helped me so much. So the reason I did this is one of my leadership leaders, mentors, coaches, whatever you would like to say, she is in school, and her one assignment she had to do was organize a technology fast among students, and she gathered a few students and we worked in pairs, and we talked to people and got people to do a technology fast with us. And so we were just letting go of it and letting go of something we appetite for. So traditionally, when you're talking about fasting, you're normally talking about fasting from food and not eating or anything for however much time. And so fasting like that is important. And the idea of fasting is taking something you appetite for and giving it to the Lord, and learning to depend not on what your appetite for, but on what you need, and that is God. So we did a technology fast, which I think is really interesting because often so many people appetite for their phone, and they appetite for just a dopamine hit of scrolling or from posting, and they appetite for that, and that is something they continually long for and search for. So in doing a technology fast, you're letting go of that appetite, and you're instead choosing to spend that time with God and with doing actually productive things for your day. For me, I do not have social media. I don't have Instagram or TikTok or Facebook or anything like that. The only thing I really have is YouTube. And so for me, it's not that hard for me to give up social media because I would just be giving up YouTube. But something for me that I guess I would say I appetite for is music, and I always have music playing. In fact, right now is really one of the only times I don't have music playing. So I always have just music, headphones in and music playing in my ears regardless what I'm doing. I could be practicing the piano and making my own music, and I would still be listening to music. And so that is something I really appetite for. And so when talking about fasting, I was okay, yeah, I'll give up YouTube, and I'll give up anything that I would do on my phone that isn't really productive. And then thinking about it, I was you know what? I think for me, that's going to be easier. It's not something I have a huge appetite for, but music is. So then I was thinking about it and praying about it. I'm okay, God, should I be giving this up? And I talked to lots of people. They're okay, I'll give up music other than worship music. But I'm I listen to a lot of worship music anyways, basically. I listen to worship music and country music. So most of the music I listen to is worship music. And so for me, it's not that hard to give up all music but worship music. And so I was just okay, I'm going to fast from music for 7 days, for the time that everyone would be doing Instagram and YouTube and Netflix and all those sorts of things. And so I didn't listen to any music for 7 days straight. This was so hard. So okay, day one, it was a busy day, and I was just okay, I was gone all day long. It wasn't that hard because I was constantly with people and talking to people, and we were volunteering at a church. It was Sunday morning, and we were volunteering the entire day, except for there was a chunk of 3 hours, maybe 2 hours, where we didn't have anything. And naturally, most people, we would just all pull out our phones and just do whatever on our phones. We were all doing this technology fast together, and so we instead had an impromptu Bible study, which I think was really, really cool, because instead of wasting our time doing something like that, our minds were focused on God, and we were like just filling up ourselves to be able to then serve for the rest of the night, which was, I think, really, really cool, and definitely something that wouldn't have happened if we weren't on a technology fast. So, technology fast is really, really good for, just making time to spend in God's Word. And for me, that was one of the biggest impacts it had. And instead of being distracted by music, and maybe I would read the Bible and, listen to music at the same time. I would be praying and listening to music. Instead, it was silence, and I was able to more diligently focus on praying and reading the Bible and studying and spending time with God that actually impacted me deeper than when I would have done it and been listening to music at the same time. Now, right before we started this fast, we went to a youth retreat, and the speaker talked about both the spiritual discipline of silence and the spiritual discipline of fasting. Now, because of this, that's how I was like, okay, God, like, I'm going to give up music and I'm going to enjoy the silence, even though it is very, very difficult. Now, this silence, I think one of the things of silence is when you're listening to stuff and you're always being stimulated by something playing in your ears, you don't have time to actually slow down and to process what is going on. And so one thing that I noticed for me in involving silence and giving up music, fasting from that thing I appetite for, is through the silence, I was able to spend more time with God. I was able to clear my head and not be so stressed and anxiety-ridden and just overwhelmed with everything going on, because I could actually process it without being distracted by the music playing in the background, right? So I was able to have a clear mind to be able to focus. Now, one thing that the speaker talked about, as well as I experienced, when you start silence, it is so hard, especially as someone who always has music playing. Because as soon as you do it, then you realize how many thoughts you avoid, and how often you would think of something and you push it away. And it's kind of like putting it in, the room where all of your junk goes, and that room's just an absolute mess, and that becomes your mind. And when you allow yourself to be in silence and be in a place that might be uncomfortable, you begin to be able to sort out those things going on in your mind. And so for me, I realized that when I would think of something that I was like, okay, I should probably deal with this, I would think about it and then not really actually work through my thoughts about it. And I would immediately push it to the side. And through silence, I was able to begin to actually think about those things. And I noticed such a difference in my stress levels and everything throughout this week of silence. At this retreat, I talked about the spiritual discipline of fasting. And fasting is letting go of the thing you appetite for, but also self-denial. So you begin to deny yourself and deny the pleasures that you want to enjoy, and giving it to God and allowing God to give you pleasure. And you know what? I think one of the things that we often do when we're praying or when we're reading the Bible or something, we want God to respond immediately, but we're not willing to give up the things we want and the things that will please us to listen to His voice and to be able to understand what He is saying. So through fasting from the things, music, but also social media and YouTube and things like that, is you begin to allow God the space to speak into your mind, because you're not like, okay, God, I'm going to listen to you, and then 5 minutes later you're scrolling on your phone and you're not actually listening. And so I think practicing fasting in this way was really, really cool to see how when we let go of the things and the pleasures we want, how God will begin to be able to speak to us more clearly, and we will be able to also hear His voice clearer because we're not being distracted by the things going on our phones and in our ears. And so another thing they said about fasting, and I'm just going to read this because this was so good, and it was the aim is dependence, not deprivation. So through fasting from something, you don't want to be deprived. You don't want to be like physically or emotionally or spiritually deprived from something, but you're going to learn to take maybe that want and that desire and that want for pleasure, and you're going to be able to give, you're going to be able to allow God to show you and to lead you, and you're going to become dependent on God for those things and those pleasures rather than being deprived from those things. So fasting is not deprivation, but it is dependence. And I think that is something that really stood out and that I was able to see through this week of fasting. Fasting for me absolutely changed my my entire week. And additionally to all those things I said, I had so much time. Even just not being distracted by things, I was able to do a lot. So on my wall, I have a row of bookshelves, and I just moved in. This is my room. I just moved rooms, and this row of bookshelves used to be black, and so I painted my walls blue, and so I wanted my bookshelves to be dark blue instead of black. And so I had painted 4 of them in the summer before I moved in. But one of them I accidentally broke while painting, and the other one had been rotted out by an issue from water. And so because of that, I had never painted those 2 bookshelves. And this week through prayer and fasting, we had the bookshelves done. I was just too lazy to go paint them. And so through the week of fasting, I was like, hey, I have nothing else to do, and so I'm gonna go paint the bookshelves. And now the bookshelves are painted, and so my wall with the bookshelves across the entire wall is finally done. So through fasting and through silence and through not wasting time of doing things, I was able to accomplish things that I had been waiting for months and months and months to do, which was really, really cool. Additionally, through this, I rediscovered not even how to be bored, but how to like deal with boredom. And I think so often we deal with boredom and we pull out our phone, or we're uncomfortable with something and we pull out our phone. And through this, when I was bored, I had to go find something to occupy myself. And so because of that, I had so much time to dedicate to practicing my flute and practicing piano and doing stuff like that that I need to do and I need to practice. But also doing enjoyable tasks like sewing and stuff like that that I enjoy and that I love to do, but I claim I never have time to do. But in reality, I'm just distracting myself doing other stuff. And lastly, when I gave up fasting, I had more time to spend with God, and not only time, but quality time. Because when you spend time with God, and even if you have your phone beside you, when you see like a notification go off or something, you're gonna pick up your phone and you're gonna check the notification, and then you're gonna get back to either reading the Bible or praying. And so by removing that distraction completely, the time that I was able to spend with God was deeper and more intentional and so much more beneficial for me and for my relationship with God than it was when I have my phone present. So I thought it would be cool to just make a video about the importance of fasting from something like technology, something that occupies a lot of your day and your brain, and so much of what we think about and what we depend on is our phone and is the technology that we use in our day-to-day lives. And so I'm not telling you that you have to go do a technology fast and have to give it up for 7 days. It is very beneficial to give up something you appetite for, whether it's your phone or food or maybe, I don't know, it could be maybe playing video games, something like that. It is beneficial to give it up to spend more time with God, and also just create more time in your day and remove some of the stress that comes down and that you end up putting on yourself every single day. It also does not have to be a fast that is 7 days long, but it should be challenging for you. So in doing this fast, we were like, okay, like we know ourselves. We know we can go a day without our phone, and that won't be really, really difficult. But the longer that we made the fast, the harder it became. And so for us, a 7-day fast was about the right time. Before we were like, oh my goodness, I cannot take this anymore. but while it's still being challenging and challenging us to grow. So I'm gonna encourage you guys to fast from something in your life that you appetite for and you depend on to give you self-pleasure. And whatever that looks like, try to give it up for an amount of time that challenges you, but it's not at a point that you will actually go insane. And so that might be a week, that might be a day, that might be 5 days, that might be 3 days, maybe it's a month, which I know people who do that, and respect to them. And so if you have like a struggle with something, maybe don't fast from that and just work on being consistent with that and fixing your relationship with that before you shut it out, because that will end up worsening it. But I highly, highly, highly encourage you guys to step out and to give up something that you depend on and you rely on and fast from it, and spend that time depending on the Lord and just seeing how He will use that time of you giving up something you like and you love and you want and you desire, and how He will change that and how He will grow you when you let it go and turn to Him. Now that is all for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next video.